Welcome to my pottery studio. Today we're going to be talking about different types of costs. Okay, now let's talk about fixed and variable. Okay, so going back to our clay, this is a variable cost because I use 1.5 pounds per tumbler. So the more tumblers I make, the more clay I use. The less, if I make 0 tumblers, I'm not going to use any clay. Same thing with the glaze. This is going to be a variable cost because it's the more tumblers I make, the more I use. The less I make, the less I use. Something like the depreciation on the pottery wheel. You know, if you remember back to Accounting 301, we talked about units of production, and if we're using that method of depreciation, then I guess you could argue that it's variable. But most businesses use straight line, and in fact here in the pottery studio we use straight line. So that is going to be a fixed cost. The power we use to have lights, to fire the kiln, in a perfect world if we had air conditioning, those utility costs, unless we're on flat fee, which we are not, those are going to be variable, okay? There's always going to be a minimum amount. They won't go to 0, but the more loads we fire in the kiln, the more lights we use. God, I wish I had air conditioning. If we were blasting that right now, keeping it nice and comfortable in here, then we would be using more electricity, and that therefore is a variable cost. Our kiln here, we bought it ahead of time, and we're going to depreciate it, and that depreciation is going to be a fixed cost. The cost of electricity to fire the kiln is going to be a variable cost because we don't have to pay to fire the kiln, pay for electricity if we don't fire it. All right, so that is going to be fixed and variable costs.